Hello, this is Dino aka Axis, and welcome to my first tutorial in video. This is, like I said, the first one in what I hope to be a series of tutorials. I think they are all gonna be in cinema. Well, that's at least what I plan to do, and this one is gonna be about what you see now on the screen. This is a GIF animated image. It's square, 200 by 200 pixels. I make these as an avatars for myself or friends. They are made in cinema and then exported to GIF in Photoshop, so there will be a little step in Photoshop in the end on how to export this to GIF. Let me show you other examples. As you can see, this one's for a wolf, this one's for chupa, and this one was for kitebags. They are all a bit different, as you can see, but they're all based on the same principle. There is some background, by the background I mean a floor and a wall. There's some text, in this case my own username, and then there is something in the middle that's animating, and as you can see, each one of these is a lot different. I don't really have an idea on what I'm gonna do each time. I have, let's say, a general concept, but I make these on the fly. Alright, so one more thing is, as you might notice, you can see these are spinning continuously and they are kinda in a forever mode. Alright, so there is no start point and end point. There's just animating forever, looping in a continuous fashion. Alright, and this is something that I'm gonna show you how to do. Alright, so yeah, let's get started. I'm using Cinema 4D R13. If you're using different versions, you can still make it. There is not much, there is actually absolutely no difference, I think. I'll try to make it as easier as possible to follow, regardless of what version you're using. But I'm not gonna explain every single step exactly on what I did and how it's exactly done. You should have some kind of knowledge in cinema before heading on to this tutorial. Alright, so but even if you don't, I think you can still make sense of what's going on. Alright, so in cinema I'm gonna go to render settings, and like I said, it's a square image and it's an avatar, and the maximum size, for me at least, it's usually 200 by 200 pixels. You can choose your own size. Frame range, I'm gonna use all frames for the final render, but for now I'm gonna leave this at current frame. In the Save tab, of course, save your file somewhere and give it a name. The format we're gonna use in cinema is, at least what I use, is QuickTime Movie. And if I click options, I think these are the default options. I'm not sure if they're not. Just pause the screen and apply them. Anti-aliasing, I'm gonna use best. I'm gonna add effect ambient occlusion on default. I'm gonna add a sharpen filter on about 4% just to give the final render a bit more sharpness. And I'm gonna use global illumination on IR plus QMC still image, and I'm gonna keep that turned off for now because I'm not gonna use it right from the beginning. So as you can see, your screen should be squared up like this, and this is the exact view, the exact size of the final image. Alright, so let's kind of center that in, and let's start by let's make a sphere. It's It's always nice to have a sphere in the center of things. And let's make a new material for this sphere. Alright, inside the color I'm gonna use gradient as my texture, and I'm gonna open the shader properties just by clicking on it, and I'm gonna drag away this white one, and I'm gonna open the black one. I'm gonna make it more gray because it will look a bit more, it will be more visible if it's gray than if it's completely black. Alright, and now I'm gonna control and drag this to the other side like this, just like you copy everything else in Cinema with control. And just beneath this gray fall off here, dot, whatever this is called, I'm gonna add another color, and I'm gonna make it, for example, red. You can choose your own. And again, I'm gonna control drag this towards the red one. Same thing with this one, so that we have kind of a line going in the middle. I try to make these as symmetrical as possible, and I'm gonna drag these fall off dots, whatever, towards each of these black ones like this. Not in the same line, not in the exact same spot, just a bit off. Alright, and I'm gonna change the type to 2D-V so it goes horizontal. Reflection, I'm gonna use Fresnel at about 20 and mixed strength at about 50. Specular, I'm just gonna drop it to something like 3 or 4%, just so that it's barely visible. And I've got to drag this to our sphere so that it applies the material, and as you can see, it's now just a sphere with a nice red line in the middle. And what can we do now is, if you click your sphere and go to the objects tab, the coordinates tab, you have your coordinates, the position, scale, and rotation. And what I'm interested in is the rotations, so you can play around with any of these, for example, as you can see. And of course we can animate them. I'm using 90 frames for the whole animation. Right, so let's say I'm gonna animate the p-value. So at frame 0 I'm gonna keyframe this 0, and on keyframe 90 I'm gonna keyframe this 360, so that it makes a full cycle, a full turn. Alright, and so let's hit play to see what's going on. As you can see, our sphere is rotating just like we told it to by 360. But what's going on, if you can see, there is kind of a it speeds up and slows back down to 0 speed at frame 90 and does the same thing again. And this is not something you saw in the examples I showed you. Like I mentioned, the animation was kind of a looping, never-ending, whatever you want to call it. And the way to kind of fix that is, now this is probably the most important step in this tutorial, and we're gonna use this technique a lot here, so try to remember this. I animated the p-value, so I'm gonna right click on it, go to animation, and I'm gonna go show f curve. This is it pops up this timeline window, and you can see here that it's a graph. It has rotation in degrees, and it has the frames. So this is our speed curve. As you can see, it's not straight, so it's not really continuous, and the way to fix that is by selecting the curve and right click on it and use this set constant velocity. Now there will be absolutely no change in the look of the curve, but you can see here it says a little CV, which stands for constant velocity. So if we go back to our view here and hit play, you can see it starts to spin, and although it reaches frame 90 and goes back to 0, the speed keeps track, it's continuous. Alright, so this step of right click, show animation, show F curve, and set constant velocity is the way you fix that ease in, ease out effect, and now we have a continuous animation. Alright, and I'm gonna apply this to everything I animate in this tutorial, so try to remember that. Let's hide our sphere for now so that it doesn't get in our way. Let's add something. Let's add a, I don't know, let's add a platonic. If you go to the objects tab of your platonic, you can change the type here, so let's change the type to something, I don't know, let's use an octagon. Alright, let's hit C to make this editable. We can even shrink, oops, I'm gonna use my scale tool just to shrink it down a bit, and let's copy this. Let's copy this platonic and make sure you select one of them, not both of them, and let's drag this green one, its Y, up so that it kind of makes it a bit longer. Alright, so now we have two platonics. Alright, one and the one we just made longer. Alright, so let me just show you that we have two so that you can see it a bit better. Alright, so we have two platonics, one bigger, one smaller, and we're gonna make materials for them. Let's say I'll make one red and I'll make the other one gray. So I'm gonna copy this material. This way we have, it copies the whole thing, the color, the reflection, and the specular. So if we just change the color, we have the same reflection and specular. So I'm gonna clear the texture. I'm gonna make this kind of a gray. Try to make it the same one it was here, or at least closely the same. And I'm gonna copy this one again, and this time I'm gonna choose red, because of course this is red and gray, and I'm gonna drag the red one to this one, for example, and gray one to this one. Alright, yeah, you can even, it doesn't matter which one is which. What can we do now? We could, let me just zero out the coordinates. Alright, make sure both of these are in 0, in perfect center. Its coordinates must be 0, as like you see here. And let's go MoGraph cloner, and let's select both of these platonics, and let's drop them inside the cloner. And let's unhide our sphere. And inside the cloner, if we go to Object tab, you have the mode, the mode, and it's set on linear. I want it on radial, so I'm gonna increase the radius, something like this, maybe even up the count to, I don't know, 7, 8. Alright, to 8. So this way we have 4 of each. Alright, yeah, this looks okay. So what can you do with this? Well, if you go to the transform tab of the cloner, again you have the same values here, and this transform affects each of these clones, as you can see. So if I change, for example, this here, you can see each one of them is following the change. Alright, so I'm gonna animate this. Alright, whoops, I'm gonna keyframe this 0, 0. I'm gonna keyframe it 360 at frame 90, and right from there I'm gonna go animation, show F curve, and set constant velocity. Let me just show you again what happens if you don't. Alright, you can see the difference. The sphere is rotating continuously. These kind of go to a stop at frame 90 and 0. Alright, and this is what you fix with this constant velocity thing. Let me show you again now what's going on. Alright, now you can see these platonics are rotating in the same exact speed as our sphere is, and the animation is pretty nice and continuous. Alright, okay, what else can we do? We could, for example, copy this cloner, and let's say we drop it inside of an atom array. I don't know, make this red, for example. So now, since we copied the cloner, the animation sticks to the copy too. Alright, so all we have to do now is hit play, and this cloner will animate just like this one, because it's basically the same cloner, just a copy. Alright, and now you have this kind of a atom array going around with these platonics too. You don't have to do this if you don't like, but let's keep this like it is for now. What else can we do here? We can even animate. Let me just delete this atom array thing for now. Let's pretend that I never added it. We can also animate on different axes. For example, let's also add some animation here. So let's, inside our cloner tab, the transform tab, we animated this value. We can animate anything pretty much. We can animate even this, you know, it's up to you what you're gonna do. So let's say we keyframe the p-value 2 at frame 0, and at frame 360, at frame 90, let's use minus 360 this time, just to show you. You can do it, you can input anything you like, and you can see the curve is going the opposite direction because we used a minus 360, as you can see, from 0 to minus 360. And I'm gonna set the constant velocity here too. So let's go back and hit play to see what's going on. Alright, you can see now the animation is a bit more, how should I say, cooler. Yeah, this looks okay. So now, for example, we can do the atom array thing. Just copy this and drop this inside of an atom array. Let's make this black just to see what looks better. Nah, it's better. It's better red, at least for me. Yeah, okay. So now, again, the atom array, the cloner will follow the same animation as here because we just copied it. You can do all sorts of things with this. You can even, for example, add something like I don't know, let's add a tube. Let's rotate it by let's rotate this by 90 degrees so that it's facing towards us. Let's of course increase the outer radius and decrease the inner radius so that it's, I'm gonna round this at a round number for say 310. I'm gonna make the outer radius, I don't know, 340. The difference is 30, so I'm gonna make the height 30, so we have kind of a symmetrical tube. Also, I like to keep things symmetrical, don't know why, but yeah. Of course, we need to increase the rotation segments. You can see there is very few of them. There's only 36, and to look very jaggedy and kind of not round, and just increase this something like this so you have a nice round tube. Let's also add some cap segments. Let's add 4, and what this does is, you can see, it adds more subdivisions to the front and back faces. And now if I hit C to make this a polygon object, to make this editable, and I select my polygon mode and I go to loop selection, I can select these subdivisions because they are a circle. I can use the loop tool to select them. Alright, just like this. And the same thing for the back one. By holding shift, of course, you can select multiple. Alright, and once you've done that, let's go, I'm gonna use, it's under my mesh create tools, it's extrude. I'm not sure where it is in the other versions of Cinema, but I'm sure you can find it, and I'm gonna use something like -3 centimeters. Alright, so this will create kind of an indentation. We can use even more. Let's use something like, yeah, something like 5. Alright, and I'm just gonna apply the black material to the whole tube here, and I'm gonna take the red one, and I'm gonna drag this to this selection here. So what it does, it applies the red one to the whole selection, the whole yellow polygon selection we had, and it creates the tag, the selection tag of them, of these polygons, but you don't have to worry about that. So what we have so far is this tube, and of course you can animate this too. You don't have to if you don't want to, but let's do that too. This tube, since we rotated it, it's on 90 degrees, so I'm gonna keyframe this 90 on frame 0, and our sphere is rotating in the positive direction. As you can see on frame 90, it's on plus 360, on the positive 360, so I have to make this go in the negative direction so that it goes in the opposite direction of the sphere. So 90 minus 360 is how much? Is it this minus, let me see, I think I can even type in like this. Yep, does the same thing. Very cool this Cinema program is. Alright, I'm gonna also set the constant velocity here. I just did because it was a 90 and I had to add minus 360, I just typed 90 minus 360 and it calculated it automatically. Alright, so you don't have to add or subtract in your head, just type it inside and it will do it for you. Very cool. So if we hit play now, you can see this tube is going in the opposite direction of the sphere, and we use the constant velocity, so it means it's all nice and looping. As you can see here, goes to frame 90, back to 0. You don't see any changes, nothing. Alright, and let's say we're happy with how this looks, so I'm gonna select all of these here, and I'm gonna hit Alt and G to make this child of a null, which means they're all inside of it, so we can move it around freely. Let's call this Spinny, for example. So let's add the backgrounds. Alright, the background I use is made up of 2 floors, so use 2 floors and take any one of them, and I'm gonna rotate this by 90 degrees, and I'm just gonna move it back, not too far, something like this. Alright, yep, so now you can see we have that look from the examples. If we just take the Spinny here and drag it up, something like this, you can see now it's starting to look more like one of those examples I showed you. We have the floor, the background, and the whole thing spinning here. Let's add some text. Let's go MoGraph Mode Text inside of the Object tab. I'm gonna use depth of 200. Text, let's type whatever you like. What the fuck? Sorry guys, let me just undo what I did. I don't know what the fuck did I do. Okay, I'm gonna use text. I'm gonna use Axis, my username, my AKA. I'm gonna align it on middle, maybe even drag this up just a bit more. Now I'm gonna choose some kind of font. Yep, my computer freezes every time I go into fonts, not sure why, but it should unfreeze momentarily. Okay, now choose whatever font floats your boat. I'm gonna use something like this. I don't know, something that looks crazy. Alright, so you can choose, you can type in whatever you like. I suggest using something bold or some kind of bolder font. I'm not sure this one has bold. No, it doesn't. We can even change the text here to something, I don't know, like X, Z, K, Y, O. Doesn't matter at all. And what we're gonna do now is take the rotate tool, and I'm gonna rotate this something like this, so it's kind of emerging from the floor. I'm gonna drag it up a bit and to the front, alright, so that it's kind of underneath this whole thing here. And let's go into the mode text. You can even change the height if it's too small or too big. I think mine is just about right. And I'm gonna add a start cap, a fillet cap, and I'm gonna leave it at 5 and 1 step. You can even play around with this if you'd like to change it, for example, to, I don't know, to fillet or to just a cap or whatever. You can even make these engraved or, you know, whatever you like. But I'm gonna leave it at convex for now. So what can we do with this text? Well, we can apply some materials to this. For example, I'm gonna apply both of these. Now this here, this tag system, let's call it that, is hierarchical, which means this one will kind of overwrite this one. As you can see, the red one is to the right, so the whole thing is red. So if I reverse the order, now it's everything black. So make sure the red one is in kind of to the right of the black one, and inside of the red one's selection I'm gonna type a capital R and 1, which means the front fillet cap we made, and it's gonna be red and everything else is gonna be black. You can even just type in, for example, a capital C1, which colors the front cap. Alright, you can for example even do this. Alright, so you can do pretty much everything, but I'm gonna keep this as at red material on R1. Alright, yeah, as you can see what it does. And I'm gonna add a material for the background, and the one I always use for background is in my content browser under a Texture Kit Pro 2 pack by Grayscale Gorilla. And inside I have all of these presets, and inside the naturals I found this material. It's called Parquet Black. Yep, Parquet Black. It's just basically a parquet image loaded into color with some reflection. I'm not gonna use some bump. I'm also not gonna use, and some specular I'm not gonna use. Alright, the only thing I'm gonna use is the color, and I'm gonna drag this to each of these floors. So now we have almost finished product here. Let me just do a quick render to show you what it looks like so far. Hopefully you have something similar. Of course, we still have to add some light, and we're gonna do that as soon as this is rendered. Alright, this looks kinda cool. Probably not the best avatar are made, but for tutorial sake I think this is pretty cool. Okay, so let's make something let's enable global illumination, and let's make something for the source of global illumination. Let's use just a simple plane, and let's make it wider and taller, higher, whatever the term is, something like this. And let's go to this, I don't know what this is called, the the right front, top and perspective here view just by clicking on this here, and I'm gonna drag this up so that it's above this whole thing here. As you can see here, this is the right view. I'm gonna drag it in front of it also just a bit, and I'm gonna rotate it something like this so that it's kind of facing down on the whole thing here. And if you go back to the view here and make a new material for the plane, just with luminance around 150, and drag this to your plane, and you hit render, yes, you can see it starts to render the illumination, but we have this plane, as you can see here, it's in our way and it's blocking the view, but it's doing its job. It's shooting out some global illumination. Let me just leave this to finish, and so you can see what's going on. Also, what's going on this plane here, as you will see it once it's rendered, it's reflecting off the text here and off this platonic simple sphere, although you can't see it at the moment. Maybe even increase the brightness to, I don't know, 200, 188, just so it's a bit more brighter. So I'm gonna go right click on the plane, and I'm gonna use a compositing tag, and I'm gonna uncheck scene by camera and uncheck scene by reflection. So this way it won't be visible in when we render, and it won't be visible by any of these reflections. It will just show the illumination. Alright, so if I go to render this again, you can see now there is no more of that plane. Now it's unseen by camera. Alright, you maybe even just drag it back a little bit. Okay, this looks good. Now let's hide this so that we can easily navigate the camera here, and I'm gonna change my display mode to hidden line, so this way you can see the subdivisions of the floor, and it's much more easier to kind of center in on our view. By the center in, I mean, I don't know if you can see this in the recording, but like I said in the beginning, the screen squared up and this gray area won't be rendered, so we need to kind of make this whole thing fit within the square here, and that's why I used this hidden lines, so it's easier to navigate and to make sure you're kind of centered in and everything. So just play around with your view until you get something like this. Let's go back to Gerudo. Let's do another quick render. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, I hit the plane here. So unhide your plane. Yeah, this is looking pretty much centered on. Let's see what it looks like. For the background material, like I said, I used a pre-made material from a pack. If you want something similar, I'm sure you can Google for Parquet, and I'm sure Google will find you something similar to this. You can use. And this is why I used gray, because now it would be too dark here, and it will kind of blend in with the background too much. And if I use gray like I did here, it looks a bit more distinctive. Alright. What else can we add? For example, we can use a sky to add some more reflections. So I'm gonna add a sky, and under the color, new material, and under color I'm gonna use an HDRI. Now if you don't have an HDRI, I have of course, again from Grayscale Gorilla. They have the HDRI Studio Pack, and I'm gonna use one of theirs. If you don't have it, I'm sure Google will find you something similar. Just Google for Cinema 4D, HDRI, you know, whatever. And I'm gonna use, I don't know, something like this 3 softbox here, and I'm just gonna load it into the color, and I'm gonna add this to the sky, and I'm gonna add another compositing, and I'm just gonna uncheck scene by camera so that it's not seen by camera, and I'm gonna uncheck scene by global illumination so that this won't mess with our global illumination we set up before. Let's do another quick render now to see the difference. The difference will be it will have more reflections. See, there's no reflections here, just these platonics reflecting a bit onto the sphere here. And let's just wait for this to render. Alright, there we go. Okay, as you can see now here we have the reflection a bit. I could now play around to find something that fits this whole thing a bit more better, but I'm not going to. I just wanted to show you how to do it so you can play around on your own. And this is pretty much it. Now all that's left to do is to render this out completely, so I'm gonna go to the output here, and I'm gonna change the frame range like I said before to all frames. So now when I hit render, yes, I want to overwrite, you can see we have the timeline here, and it's starting to render frame by frame until it reaches 90, and it will save it as QuickTime Movie. Like you see here, we used QuickTime Movie, and then we're gonna go inside Photoshop, and I'm gonna show you how to convert this from QuickTime Movie to GIF so you can upload it online and use it as your avatar. So until this is rendered, I'm gonna just pause. Alright, and I'll see you when it's rendered. And I'm back. This is rendered. Now let's give it one final look. Yeah, this looks okay. Like I said, probably not the best example, but you can see we got some nice reflections on the text. Maybe not so nice, but you know, you've seen how it's done. Now it's up to you to play around with different stuff like this sky. You could, I don't know, you could rotate it around, do whatever, you know, play around with the font, you know, just mess around until you get something you like. And now this is rendered out. I rendered this to my desktop, so I won't be needing this cinema. I'll hop into Photoshop. You can see it right here. This is, I named it 5 I named it something, I can't read it. Anyway, let's head on to Photoshop, and this is a real simple step. Once you open the Photoshop, go File, Open. Just navigate to wherever your file is. Here's mine. Give it some time to load the animation. I'm gonna go Window, just to show you. You don't have to add this timeline, but just to show you, you can play it within Photoshop. You can also, I think you can change colors too. For example, where is it? Hue saturation right here. Yeah, I think if you hit play, yeah, alright. Yeah, you can see you can change colors within Photoshop if you don't like it. Alright, sorry about that. Yeah, you can change colors if you like to. And I'm gonna leave it as it is. I don't need this anymore. Well, the final step is go to File, Save for Web and Devices, and voila, these are my settings. Well, I use GIF, selective, 256 colors, diffusion, 100% Dichter, no transparency needed because nothing's transparent here. This is checked, monitor color, something this. Quality, use bicubic, 100%. You can even change the size here. And this is the most important option, looping options. If you set it to once, now if I hit play, it will stop. Okay, you can choose other, you can give it a number to play, but I'm gonna choose forever, which means if I play it will never stop playing, and this is how in the end you get that never-ending look. And hit stop, save, you give it a name, avatar. Alright, wait for it to save. You can close Photoshop. Now let me just open Mozilla. It's easier to show you, the easiest way to show you, just drag it in. There you go. This is it, the finished look, the finished product. As you can see, we made some kind of background, some text, something to animate, to keep things looking interesting, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks. Now, like I said, not the best one I've made, but hopefully you were able to follow this tutorial and I hope you got something like this, and I hope you're satisfied with how this looks. Also, I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and hopefully there will be more tutorials to come. So yeah, that's it. Upload it to whatever host you like and use it in whatever way you like. This was Dino aka Axis, bringing you my first ever tutorial in cinema, and see you next time.